Hello there, and a warm welcome to the show. Thank you so much once again for tuning in Smart 24 TV. This is Financial Markets, and it's of course the Thursday edition as we get to drive your business. My name is Anthony Sebale. To be part of the show, you can be able to follow us on Twitter at Smart 24 TV now, and follow me at Anthony Sebale there on Twitter. As well, those of you on our YouTube live stream, you can give us feedback to the comment section on our YouTube channel. That's at Smart 24 TV Live. The show is proudly brought to you by OTEX East Africa, your number one platform for trading in treasury bond securities across East Africa. OTEX East Africa under Zabu initiative now bring you treasury bonds using your mobile wallet by simply dialing *292#. With Zabu, we are saying you can do something new because you can start your investment journey in the treasury bond market with as little as 15,000 Ugandan shillings. Now remember, the treasury bond markets are some of the safest investment asset classes out there in the financial markets. Almost a 99% or 100% default level. Nothing can actually happen to your money because governments never default, nearly 100%. So definitely with OTEX East Africa, you're doing something new, investing your savings using as little access as possible to the internet, also limiting the second or third parties and second-hand transactions by being able to control the market, being able to buy, being able to sell using your mobile phone. And with OTEX, we are saying we are regulated by the Capital Markets Authority of Uganda. Let's delve into the business of the stock exchanges here in Africa. Of course, some of the highlights today, we are going to look at Cipla Quality Chemical Industries here in Uganda. The deal with Africa Capital Works seems to be somehow postponed for now. Remember, the closure date for the deal of transacting from Cipla to African Capital Works was 31st of May. Now we are a couple of days past that date, and there has been an extension on that. We're going to see why and what the implication of this could be on the company's stock. But also in the international stocks, we shall look at some of the highlights from the bullish market currently and what the strategists are saying on the big indices like the S&P 500. Could it be a sustained bullish market, or actually something else could be coming behind the bullish market? But let's get to, first of all, look at the Africa Stock Exchanges. And so let's start with West Africa. In Ghana, Ghana Stock Exchange shared off at least 106.67 points on Wednesday trading. Now, when you look at Ghana Stock Exchange, currently they have at least about, 38 listings in total. And on Wednesday, they had at least about 18 of them currently participating in the trade on the Ghana Stock Exchange. At the moment, there was only one single gainer, and that was namely MTN Ghana, and of course the biggest mover as well on the market. And when you look at the share price for Ghana stock, the MTN Ghana, at least they had 8.18% appreciation on the Wednesday trade, and closed only with a slight increase in the price without much other movements elsewhere on the Ghana Stock Exchange. Looking at the loser, we had only one single loser, and that was Enterprise Group, which lost slightly by 0.82% from their stock price on exactly Wednesday trading. MTN Ghana continued to rally the market with the highest volume, traded at 66,300 shares there, followed by Enterprise Group at 37,000 shares. The Ghana Oil Company at least also traded 30,080 shares, whereas Standard Chartered Bank at least had 4,392 shares that were traded on Wednesday. Regarding the performance of the Ghana Stock Exchange All Share Index, a benchmark of performance on the Ghana Stock Exchange, we had at least 105.67 points closing the index, with a rise of at least about 4.17%, closing at 2,637 points. Meaning Ghana has improved generally in trading. When you look at their weekly performance, their index shows a gain of 5.02%. And in the longer term, at least in 1 month, about 2.68%, whereas the year-to-date gains are at 7.92%. And that's the trading, my friend, from Ghana Stock Exchange. Pretty interesting trade there for Wednesday. Let's go to South Africa in Johannesburg. In Johannesburg Stock Exchange, we have close to 422 listings in total. Now, in the Wednesday trade, we had at least 326 companies participating in trade, and a magnitude of 172 gainers and 131 losers was recorded on the busiest and the biggest stock exchange in Africa. Now, the top gainer was Brico, which led the gainers at a 20% appreciation in price, closing off the day at least 0.12 South African rand per share. Now, Bicor currently is a company that is involved in the manufacture and the supply of bricks across a broad spectrum of markets, from the low-costing housing, residential to commercial, industrial, civil engineering, and infrastructure projects, as well as local coal markets and traders. Now, the group operates two divisions, namely the bricks, that is owned by mainly Brico, and the coal, that is the main sector. So they have energy and then infrastructure and construction. That is their main niche. Brico manufactures semi-fest bricks and clay stock bricks in Niger operations, and of course operates two factories in South Africa. Now, the company's stock currently is at 0.12 South African rand per share. Looking at this price, we are looking at a 20% gain, of course, daily yesterday. However, in the longer run, the company hasn't been performing well. In 1 week, for example, they're still counting losses of 20%, and in 4 weeks, at least 29.4%. So generally speaking, the company just seems to have been coming back yesterday from a deep abyss of losses for the current long-term performance of Brico. Away from Brico, we had Finbond Group at least appreciate 17.24%, and the Trematom Company investment at least had about 15.46% appreciation, whereas when you look at the losing side, MTN Zakhele at least lost the biggest amount of value at 16.6% depreciation in price, closing off at 17.43 South African rand. Now, what is MTN Zakhele? This is a South African investment company that is engaged in acquiring and holding shares in MTN Group on behalf of the participating black public. Now, the company headquartered in Johannesburg is set up and, of course, registered in a ring-fenced and, of course, special purpose vehicle with the sole business of facilitating the implementation of broad-based black economic empowerment. That is the major, index there. When you look at their performance yesterday, they shared of at least 3.47 South African rand and closed at 17.43 South African rand, a 16.6% loss there. Let's look at the overall performance in the longer run. In 1 week, the stock has at least gained 0.75%, whereas in 4 weeks, at least 9.03% has been dropped off. And in 3 months, at least 9.92% has actually been shed off from the stock's price there in South Africa. Away from that, looking at the biggest participants in the markets, the Thartrix DV Plus portfolio had the biggest volume recorded of 28.4 million shares, whereas Redefined Properties had 28 million shares traded, and Pepco Holdings at least had 2.24 million shares trading, and Fast Rand Bank at least had 18.5 million shares. The J203, the benchmark index from South Africa, at least appreciated by 285 points upwards, closing at 77,125 points. Elsewhere in Africa, looking at Nairobi Securities Exchange, we're going to look at that later, but their index lost 0.17%. And when you look at Nigeria Stock Exchange, also their benchmark index lost at least about 14.33 points, and the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange appreciated 14,563 points and continues to be one of the most resilient stock exchanges across Africa. Now let's come back home in East Africa and start off, of course, with the Uganda Securities Exchange. Uganda Securities Exchange on Wednesday had quite a mixed trade, but the all-share index nevertheless at least appreciated by 14 points closing off the day. Now, the Uganda Securities Exchange on the 7th of June, at least by the end of trading, had 45,900 shares traded, corresponding to a market value of just 3.6 million shares. Now, the market capitalization currently stands at 18 trillion Ugandan shillings at the moment. Looking at the trading for the day, we had just about 2 participants in the trade and 5 gainers and 3 losers on the market. The biggest participant in the trade was Stanbic Bank Uganda and was followed straight up by MTN Uganda. Now, the Stanbic Bank stock was traded at least about 26 shillings and closed off with a volume of 28,100 shares, closing off after an appreciation of 0.86 Ugandan shillings. MTN Group, however, maintained their price at 165 shillings and closed at 17,800 shares that were traded. On the gainers side, we had mainly cross listings, about 4 cross listings and 1 domestic listing, which was Stanbic Bank Uganda. East African Breweries Limited rallied the market with a 5.62% appreciation, closing the day at 4,309. Uganda. The Stanbic Bank Uganda 3.42%.
No data, no problem. Zabu allows you to buy or sell securities on the Altex exchange from anywhere in Uganda via USSD. Step 1. To buy, dial *292#. Step 2. Select buy. Step 3. Select the product you would like to buy. For example, bonds. Step 4. Select your preferred maturity year. Step 5. Select the bond you would like to buy. Step 6. Input an amount of 15,000 Ugandan shillings or more. Step 7. Your order has been forwarded for processing. And finally, Step 8. Your order has been confirmed.
One of them is, of course, about Cipla Quality Chemical Industries, deal with Africa Capital Works. Now, Cipla currently has 70.0 as their trading price per share. This price has been stagnant for quite some time. And this year, Cipla actually declared that they will be selling their 51.18% stock or stake in Cipla Quality Chemical Industries to Africa Capital Works, which is an investment company from South Africa. Now, African Capital Works has indicated that the completion of the planned buyout of Cipla from Quality Chemical Industries was not achieved as of 31st May as earlier planned. In a notice yesterday, Africa Capital Works indicated that the buyout, which is expected to cost between $25 million and 30 million US dollars. That's about 93 billion to about 112 billion Ugandan shillings could not be completed within the planned timeline, thus requiring a new transaction close date. And now, Africa Capital Works and CIPLA Group, which is of course based in India, have considered the time required to complete the outstanding conditions precedents, and of course agreed to extend the date by which the conditions precedent must be satisfied or waived for the transaction to close. The notice issued by the African Capital Works, of course, reads in part and of course gets us to think of what could be next for CIPLA and Africa Capital Works. Now, in the notice as well, the closing transaction date has been pushed to 31st of June. That is the 31st of this month, with the possibility of an automatic extension to 31st of July. The extension will delay the deal in which the Indian-based drug manufacturer is to dispose of 51.18% stake in CIPLA Quality Chemical Industries. Now, this has been informed, of course, on different stock exchanges, and in a disclosure notice to shareholders filed through Bombay Stock Exchange, the National Stock Exchange of India, and the Luxembourg Stock Exchange, CIPLA indicated that it had on March 14th entered into an agreement with Africa Capital Works in which it would dispose of its entire stock in CIPLA Quality Chemical Industries to dispose of some of that. Now, Uganda held through the EU and Meditab Holdings at least about 51.18% of stake in the CIPLA Quality Chemical Industries. That's a transaction we are going to be, of course, looking at. And as the details unfold, we'll be getting you up to speed with what will be, of course, coming out of that transaction. This is expected, of course, to be a boost for CIPLA because you have the only pharmaceutical here listed on the Uganda Securities Exchange, no competition yet. And so we definitely hope for the very, very best. Now, let's go across to the United States and have a look at the bullish market there on Wall Street in New York. Now, Wall Street strategists have gotten more bullish as stock rises, and they are still not optimistic enough. However, strategists are maintaining their bullish attitude, and according to Lee, there has been a sitting of at least 4,750 year-end price targets, and that is for the S&P 500. And of course, watching analysts slowly increase their calls as the S&P 500 approaches the bull market territory. The sell side beariness might be, of course, most extreme in what we've seen in the last 30 years of trading on the United States trade. And despite several S&P 500 target boosts from prominent Wall Street analysts, Mr. Lee points out that at least only 5 of 20 analysts are tracking to see an upside S&P 500's current level from 4,300. Morgan Stanley recently called for a 16% decline in the earnings by the end of 2023. And investors are not yet, of course, short of the S&P 500 futures at their highest level since 2007. Closing off yesterday, and of course today, this morning, we are looking at the S&P 500 at 4,267 points after a 7 points decline in the past 24 hours, whereas the Dow Jones Industrial Average is at 33,678 US dollars, and the Nasdaq is at 14,268.75 US dollars. That's, of course, the information from the Wall Street in the United States. There you have it, my friends. Thank you so much for once again tuning in and for watching Smart 24 TV. You can always, of course, guarantee that you will get the best and the biggest information on business here on our Smart 24 TV channel. Of course, if you have missed out any of the content, you can go back to our YouTube platform and get to check out some of the clips and the analysis we've done on the markets across Africa. But you can also visit our website at www.smart24/tv.com and get to, of course, have more information on the current market performances. Well, as we wind up, I want to remind you about Altex East Africa. And Altex East Africa and Zabu are giving you the treasury bond market like no other. Simply go to your phone and dial *292# to experience trading on the next level in the treasury bond market here in East Africa. You can start with as little as 15,000, and the markets open at exactly 30 minutes past 8 a.m. and close at 30 minutes past 3 p.m. East African Standard Time. There you have it, my friends. Of course, tomorrow is the final day of this week as we analyze the weekly performances of different stock exchanges and other segments of the financial markets. My name is Anthony Sabali. Have a wonderful rest of the day and see you tomorrow. Bye for now.